What's up, everyone? We're going to be doing a little bit of an information roundup here for everything that's come out for Mortal Kombat 11, since it was announced about a month ago, and this is leading up to MK Day, which is coming out here later on this week. We are going to be talking about some leaked information, though. In fact, a fair amount of it's that, but a lot of that has recently been verified to an extent, and we'll get into all that. But yeah, so I'm gonna kind of run down everything that we know about the game so far. And then after we do that, I'm gonna actually do a little bit of speculating myself when it comes to the storyline that we could be seeing for this game. I want to get that out before MK Day on the 17th, because I want to see how right or wrong I'm going to be about a couple things. I don't think I'm going to be touching too much new ground, but I have not seen a lot of conversation about this stuff so far. So, let's start with some of the basics first. So, the game was announced on December 11th at the VGAs. The game's going to come out April 23rd. There's going to be two different kinds of pre-orders that you can do. You can do pre-order for the regular version of the game, and you can do a pre-order for premium, which will come with the combat pack, and we're going to get into details about that in just a moment. Some of the things that are touted in most of the outlets where you can pre-order the game is that you're going to have new custom character variations. I think this is going to be... I think you saw a lot of this in Injustice 2 as far as things that you can do with that, but it's my understanding that a lot of information is leading towards you being able to do a lot more than what you were able to do even in Injustice 2 as far as customizing your character. The game is going to have a brand new graphics engine. That's actually kind of expected, considering it's a whole new game, but they are talking about how you're going to be able to see the bone-crunching, blood-splattering action better than you ever did before. Looking forward to that, that's for sure. And you're going to be getting a roster, and this is kind of old hat with every new iteration of the game, but you're going to get new and classic fighters with this. It's the kind of classic fighters, and which ones we're going to get, that's what's pretty interesting. And of course, their promos talk about how you're going to get the best-in-class cinematic story that we've been accustomed to for the last couple versions of Mortal Kombat with 9 and 10. I'm very much looking forward to that. Specifically noted, however, that this has been 25 years in the making. Again, kind of pointing to some of the things that the trailer showed us. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on. So let's talk about the two versions that you can pre-order. So again, there's your regular version, then there's your premium edition. Either one, if you pre-order, you're going to get Shao Kahn, very similar to what they did with Goro with MKX, and I believe they did the same with Darkseid for Injustice 2. So it's what's coming with the combat pack in the premium edition. That's where some more details come to light as well. So this is what's being said. This is what's on Steam right now for what you get with the combat pack. It's going to come with 6 new playable characters, DLC playable characters. That's a lot bigger than the previous combat packs from MKX. So overall, it's looking like this combat pack is going to be about the size of 2 combat packs from MKX. You're going to get access to the DLC characters 1 week early than if you were not to buy the combat pack, but you wanted to get them. So that's kind of neat. You get them a little bit earlier. Now, these are where things are brand new when it comes to Mortal Kombat. You're going to get 7 skins. And I'm talking about skins here in a second. You're going to get 7 sets of gear, and both of those are new. Now, if we were to follow kind of what they've been doing in the last fighting games, NetherRealm Studios, see, skins were introduced, I believe, within Injustice 2, and what they were able to do was basically give you a new physical version of a character with the same abilities. The Raiden version in Injustice 2, I believe, came with a skin, and I believe it gave you Black Lightning, who had all the same abilities and such, and played the game, but had a completely different look to him. We've not seen that in Mortal Kombat yet, but there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of different variations that they could work with all the characters in Mortal Kombat. So that's pretty neat. I really like that. If it's gonna work the same way, which I'm sure it will for the most part. That's gonna be able to give us access to a lot more characters than we had in the past. The sets of gear, though, that's a little bit different as well. We've never seen that in Mortal Kombat before, so we're going to be getting 7 sets of gear with the combat pack, And it's my understanding, I did not, if you can't tell, I have not played Injustice 2. I'm pretty much focused on Mortal Kombat, but it's my understanding that there was gear in there as well, and outside of cosmetic differences, this also gave you access to different abilities. I just, because I don't know so much about this yet, I'm kind of apprehensive about it, but I mean, it sounds cool, sounds interesting, and that's something they kind of alluded to in the MK11 trailer as well, with seeing different versions of Scorpion wearing different gear. So I think that in showing us a new ability that we've never seen Scorpion have before. So I'm pretty sure that's it's going to work something like that. Yeah, so like I said, shortly after the game was announced, you had all kinds of leaks and spoilers popping up. For the most part, there wasn't a lot to them. There were a few things that came out that definitely piqued people's attention, and many feel that there is some legitimacy to them. I think it was the next day, a new picture of Shao Kahn was released, showing him in a variation of armor. It's definitely different from what we saw at the end of the trailer that was touting him as DLC if you pre-ordered. So yeah, that was interesting. That got leaked. I'm not even sure if I remember at this point where that came from. It did come from a website from another country outside of the U.S. Besides that, I do not remember that anymore, so I do apologize for that. So besides that, I believe it was a website for Best Buy in Canada that leaked that Liu Kang and Sub-Zero are going to be in the game. To be honest, I mean, did anyone think Sub-Zero wasn't going to be in the game, or Liu Kang for that matter? So, even if that was a legitimate leak or not, I mean, that's pretty obvious. That's not all that surprising that they're going to be there. The big leak, though, came from an email that apparently came from NetherRealm Studios' marketing department talking about the big MK Day event that's coming up here on the 17th. This showed up, I want to say sometime within about the first week or so after the game was announced. And there was a lot of information that just kind of felt like it would be legitimate as well, but it actually wasn't until in the last week that some of the things that were in there have actually come to fruition, and I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But let's talk about what was in this email that grabbed people's attention. One of the big things right away was that it's being said that Ronda Rousey will be doing the voice acting for Sonya Blade. So I guess that could be confirmation that Sonya's a playable character, which honestly wouldn't be surprising. She might not be, though. She might just be in the story, so you don't know that for sure. Ronda Rousey being the voice actor for Sonya, I mean, I honestly don't really care one way or the other. That's fine. I've not seen her do too much acting, but whatever. It did mention a new character named Garrus, with a potential trailer that's going to be shown on MK Day. This was, as the email states, it was done in part because a trailer for Shao Kahn, at least at the time of this email, was apparently not going to be ready for show. Speculation is because Shao Kahn may not have much to do with the story, like prior DLC pre-order characters have been in the past. I'm not sure if I buy that, though. I just don't think he was ready, if it is in fact the case. But a new character named Garrus, we don't really know anything about him, though, but it looks like there's a pretty good chance that we're going to get some kind of trailer for at least him, or her, probably him, this coming week. Some new gameplay elements were talked about in the email as things to highlight on MK Day. Again, talking more about custom variations, custom characters, but some two new, what sounds like some two new things to be doing in combat: crushing blows and supers. I honestly couldn't really tell you what supers are. But crushing blows, I think, is going to be our new variations of the X-rays. We get, I think, kind of a display of this a little bit in the trailer when Raiden shoves his foot basically through Scorpion's chest, and I think that's kind of an example of what those are going to be. But yeah, these are brand new. all of that. Again, they're going to be brand new to Mortal Kombat. Looking forward to hearing what those are going to be all about. There's going to be a new mode in the game called the Towers of Time, and potentially this is going to be something like the Living Towers that we've had in the past. We don't really know for sure, but apparently this is a thing. This again kind of goes with all the speculation and all the details that we're getting, everything leading to time bending or the use of time being a big element of the story. Now, the email also did state something about a new character called Chronica, and a lot of people are thinking Chronica is going to be the character that you see at the end of the trailer. This actually makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of history in Mortal Kombat having characters with names that have to do with Japanese or Greek mythology. Chronica is very similar to the name Chronicus, which is the Greek god of time. So that, again, we're getting a lot of things pointing in a certain direction. It's most likely the case that that's going to be her name. So at this point, this is where we're going to take a look at why there's validity to this email, which, again, up until last week, there really wasn't any reason to believe there was any truth to it. But a couple things have recently surfaced that point to it being real. The two things that came out, the first one was late in the week. They revealed the cover art for Mortal Kombat 11, which was the same cover art that was discussed in the email. So if that was a fake email, there's no way they would have that cover art. And so them releasing that and it being the same pretty much gives validity to the email. The second thing was the email also discussed about one of the DJs that was going to be at one of the Mortal Kombat Day events, and there was a recent announcement about the same DJ from NetherRealm basically stating the same thing. So coming into Mortal Kombat Day, there are a couple things that came out that are leading us to believe that this email was factual on pretty much everything, or at least at the time that this email was written. Up until this point, though, there hasn't actually been a lot talking about actual gameplay, a lot of things leading up to it. A lot of people are speculating because of what we saw in the trailer, which there's precedence to do that. The last couple trailers for MK9 and MK10 did take a fair bit of time to show how gameplay was going to work. It's actually, especially for the MKX trailer, was pretty much the biggest thing you could pull out of the trailer was how the gameplay was going to run, kind of overall feel for the game. And I think that's going to be similar here. I think, and something that hasn't come out a lot is weapons, but in recent released pictures of Shao Kahn and Raiden, weapons are prominent, as well as being prominent in this trailer, and I do think that's going to play a larger role than we've seen in a long time. And if it's going to continue to be a 2D fighting game, it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out, because the only time we've really had weapons in Mortal Kombat has been in the 3D versions of the games. So it's really interesting to see how that's going to work out, and we're going to find out pretty soon with MK Day just around the corner. So that's pretty much everything that we have as far as legitimate, pretty factual information as far as gameplay and such. I did want to talk a little bit about what everyone's been speculating a lot about, and that's the story mode. And we've heard next to nothing about this. Everything that we had to go on have been images and the trailer that has come out. There's two main things that are going on here, and depending on who you are, you dismiss some of this. I'm actually not going to be dismissing either of these things right now. It's kind of fun to speculate. I don't like to speculate on too much. I don't want to speculate on the gameplay or anything yet, because we really don't have a lot of information on that. But we do have a couple things here as far as story elements that I do want to talk about. The first being Shao Kahn. And ever since the trailer came out, there have been people kind of pointing at the fact that Shao Kahn is looking a bit different than he ever has in the past. In particular, you got to look at his arms and some part of his chest. He's got some spikes coming out of there. He's definitely got a different skin variation than he's ever had in the past. We've not seen that before in any versions of Shao Kahn, and it's it's pretty crazy. Grabbed my attention right away. I've been really speculating what that's all about. Now, again, a lot of people are dismissing this because he's the pre-order character. He's going to be DLC for those that don't pre-order, I'm sure. And in the past with Goro and with Darkseid for Injustice 2, they've not had these characters have really anything to do with the story. I don't really know if that's precedence enough to dismiss the fact that Shao Kahn's got spikes and scales, and he's looking quite a bit different now, especially considering where he's been in the story up until this point, both in the original timeline and the alternate one. I'll get more into how Shao Kahn gets involved, considering he was basically obliterated by the Elder Gods at the end of MK9. I don't know. I don't dismiss this, though. And especially with the latest image that came out, you're really getting a full view of the differences here. Knowing what I know about MK lore, I could not dismiss the fact that Shao Kahn, while he's in some way a rival to almost everybody, in particular, and considering where we are potentially with the storyline, he's a huge rival of Onaga, who we've not seen yet in this new alternate timeline, but it's around this time that we start talking about Onaga. This is when, after MK4 is, the Deadly Alliance, which is basically a lead up to Onaga with Mortal Kombat Deception. They even start talking about Onaga's army and such in Deadly Alliance. So, and why I think this is important is that most of the beef in history with Onaga actually comes from Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn is the one that betrayed and killed him and took over the throne. And again, none of that so far in of itself really means much, except for how Onaga is brought back in the original timeline. It's revealed in the storyline for Deception that Onaga is actually able to make his return through the help of Natara in possession of Reptile. And it has... I'm trying to remember all the details. Basically, his essence and such is trapped in an egg, which breaks open, and his essence goes into Reptile, which basically morphs and takes over his body. And it's those elements there that I think is particularly important. He dies after that. He's in another realm, and then he's able to get out of another realm, and that's how he's still around after that. But it's that element that I think is important, especially with this transformation that we're talking about. Reptile was transformed into Onaga, and here we have Onaga's greatest enemy, basically having some transformation going on here as well. It looks like he's changing into something dragon-like, just like Onaga was. That's just, it may be a little too on point. It might be a bunch of trickery. The actual finished product for Shao Kahn may not have these weird kind of dragon scaly spiked arms at all. They may just intentionally be trying to throw us off, and I might have bought into it, and that's fine. But it's a bit too much for me to just dismiss that. Just so happens that Onaga's biggest rival, at a time when we might start seeing Onaga introduced into the game, just so happens to be transforming into some kind of scaly dragon-like thing, potentially. Yeah, I'm not dismissing that. I think there's something to that. I think we're going to find out. Well, we'll definitely find out as time goes on. I don't know if we're going to find out an MK Day, but I think things are going to start being revealed for that soon. And, I got to be honest with you, I could definitely see from a villainous point of view. If you want to get back at somebody, what better way to get back at him than to possess him yourself and destroy his world from within, essentially. Now, again, there is the fact that Shao Kahn has been dead in this new alternate timeline, and how exactly does all that work out? And that's where I actually think that the other major element that people are speculating about comes in. You have, her name is probably Chronica, that's probably her name. You have her introduced. You've got a giant hourglass sitting there, which is going up. It's in reverse. We're getting all these different things pointing to time and time breaking, having to do with the storyline. And with Shokan dead currently, with us messing with time, all bets are off as far as who's alive and who's not, and how much that matters. In fact, I can see almost a storyline playing out with all this meddling with time, accidentally bringing Shokan back, and then giving Onaga an opportunity to possess him. Maybe that's how it plays out, maybe not. But I mean, that's kind of the vibe I was getting from the whole thing. But let's talk about Chronica for a second here. Looking at her design and the design of everything going on in the background and such, trying to figure out where Chronica came from. I mean, I think it's still pretty much up in the air, but if I was to take a guess as to what's going on there, what kind of backstory we're looking at, I think there's an opportunity here for them to introduce, or I should say reintroduce, some elements from the MK story in the past and introduce it for the first time in this alternate timeline. When I look at Chronica and I look at everything that's going on here in this last moment of the trailer, I get a vibe of the Order realm. I really can't dismiss that. It's got a lot of similar designs and colors that we've seen from the Order realm in the past. What I'm getting, my shot in the dark on this is that Chronica is like Raiden, but for the Order realm. She is the god for the Order realm, and I could definitely see, considering how screwed up everything is from the original timeline in this alternate timeline, I could definitely see an enraged god saying, "You know what? I've got the power to fix this. I'm going to do it." And especially considering somebody from the Order realm, which is all about not breaking the rules and is all about trying to make things right through discipline and the way things should be. I don't know if I'm explaining that properly. Hopefully I am, but I'm just kind of getting that vibe. Of course, up until MK9, we've not had anything messing around all the time in the past, in the past Mortal Kombat games, I should say. So, this is all new. But that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Gives us an opportunity to introduce the Sato realm, aka the Order realm, into this timeline, which has only been briefly mentioned one time before in Johnny Cage's MK9 ending. That's just kind of the vibe I'm getting from it, though. But that is pretty much all we've got for now. We're gonna find out a whole lot more about this game in the days ahead. But want to give an opportunity. There's a lot of information out there, and it's spread all over the place. In case anybody was looking for an opportunity for someone to round all this information up and just kind of spit it out before we go to MK Day, I thought it would be a good opportunity to put out our first Mortal Kombat video. We are going to be covering Mortal Kombat on this channel up to and after the release of. We'll be doing all kinds of playthroughs and let's plays for Mortal Kombat 11. If you want some kind of idea of the in-depth coverage we're going to give it, you can take a look at our Soul Calibur 6 stuff that we have on our channel. But guys, what do you think? What do you think about my speculations here on the stories with Shokan, with Chronica, with some elements of the story? Let me know. Comment below. Let me know what you think of the theory, and if you got something different, let me know what you think it is. It'd be a lot of fun to speculate about this going into MK Day. So that is going to do it for now, though. If you liked what we brought you, you can give us a like and subscribe. That'd be great. But until MK Day, that's going to do it for us for now for our MK coverage. So until then, take care.